Hello. Hi. Are we connected?
Malvika, we are live now.
Oh,
You
okay.
can yeah.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Uh,
Hi, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah. Let me just share my screen, right? And then
Yeah, please do.
good morning.
Great. Thank you, Malvika. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. It's really happy to see so many people joining us and to learn more about SEL and why it is important to take the first step towards incorporating little practices in our daily lives, be it a child or for an adult. To introduce myself, I'm Vaishnavi Srinivasan, the Executive Director of Bhumi. I've been volunteering with Bhumi for over 14 years now. Started off teaching English, and gradually, with my interest, I got absorbed into the organization full time. A couple of years back, I got an opportunity to do holistic education from a college in Bangalore, Bhumi College in Sarjapur. And that's when I was introduced to process work and the importance of socio-emotional learning, not just, like I said, not just for the child, but also for the adult, and how it helps us or enables us to operate in different ways, in particularly in challenging certain beliefs or certain perspectives. And in doing so, how do you channelize your energies to be able to function better? So once I got back to Bhumi after pursuing my education, the interest kind of gravitated towards working with schools. So starting off the socio-emotional development program for teachers or educators who work very closely with children and who most often end up influencing them directly or indirectly. So the program kind of evolved into direct creating direct touch points with the educators, getting them to think more about or building the skill of reflection in them, getting them to become more aware of their emotions and how that could actually play out in the context of the classroom. And then we also built the module for children where we can take these practices to them, and they can practice these little habits and eventually become habits in whatever space that they're part of, be it the school or home. In that journey, I found Malvika, and Malvika has been part of our team for a year now. Malvika, could you please introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you, your background, and what you do in Boom.
Sure. Thanks, Vaish. Hello, everybody. My name is Malavika. So I have been with Bhumi this past 1 year working on the social and emotional learning program. So our program is called the Head, Heart, and Love. So that's why it's hello. But the framework that we use, our program itself is based on SEL, which you will be discovering a bit more during the session following. So a little bit about me is that I am from Chennai, and then I did my undergrad in Bangalore, and then I went on to Mumbai to do social work and mental health at TIS. And during my so this is important because during my volunteering days in Bangalore, I used to teach children at this a local community nearby, and I used to teach them maths after the college hours, right? So just once a week, I used to go and teach them. And I think that was my first exposure to the education system, where I wasn't an active, consumer. I mean, I wasn't a student really, and I really felt that there was something that needed to be changed. Education needed to be a bit more holistic, and that's really what got me started on this journey. And because of my interest in mental health and making education spaces more mental health, promote mental health in education spaces, I joined this, and then I went on to Bhumi because this program just seemed to be perfect for me. And in the past year, my team and I have been working on building curriculum, also facilitating workshops for teachers. And yeah, that's basically what we've been doing. And today, Vaishnavi will tell you more about our program. I'm very happy to see all of you here. Thank you. Yeah, over to you, Vaish.
Thanks, Malvika. If you can just move on to the next slide. Uh, so now the space is going to be interactive. We want to hear a lot from each one of you who's present in the room, and without cold calling. So just feel free to put down your responses on chat. What do you think social emotional learning means to you? And we might be doing this consciously, unconsciously. So, what does SEL mean to you? We'd be happy if you could put down your responses on chat. Going beyond the brain, a subtle intervention. Great. Thank you, Parikshit. Kavishri says how people are socially and emotionally connected. Absolutely. You can probably take one more response. Thank you, Nisha. Nisha says components of learning to manage emotions, creating and managing relationships, definitely going from the self to the other, where, as you, in the social construct, we're constantly interacting with a lot of people. Great point. Deepa says a process of developing self awareness, interpersonal skills, and empathetically responsive. Absolutely. Something like EQ. Absolutely. Great. I think that kind of culminates, puts together the broad sense of what SEL is. And we've actually touched upon some of the components that put together that define SEL. So, what is SEL? Um, yeah, so SEL is as we see, is in terms of creating self awareness. A lot of our work starts with the self. So how do I operate as a person? Why do I operate the way I do? A lot of what we are today stems from our personal experiences as a child, in adolescence. A lot comes from the environment that we grow up in, the social constructs, our roots, and in terms of our ancestry. So building that self-awareness, building reflection into how we operate, and most importantly, being in touch with our emotions, right? How does that play out? If I'm happy today, if I'm feeling energetic today, it's going to show out in this space with how I am going to be presenting. If I'm not in such a good space, it's going to definitely reflect in a very different way. So being in touch, or having that knowledge in terms of where I am, who I am as a person, and eventually translating that into a skill. So what starts off as a conscious skill or conscious effort, say, let's say reflection in how am I feeling today, will soon become an unconscious habit, will automatically become a skill 10 years or 5 years or 3 years from now, if I'm going to be doing it day in and day out. And in the process, I'm also going to become very aware of what is happening around me. With the awareness of what is happening inside of me, I am going to become aware of what is happening around me, and in terms of how it is affecting or enabling or inhibiting my relationships with the other. So particularly in the context of each one of us collaborating in different spaces, be it work, at home, or in society, how is that going to play out? And how does that become an attitude that will again affect or enable what we do in society? So we're going to talk about the larger ecosystem also, starting from the self, moving to the other, and eventually the ecosystem. How does the knowledge transform into skill and eventually becomes a positive attitude that we can very beautifully build in each one ourselves? Moving on, what are the different competencies, right, that put together or comprise SEL as one unit of change, some of which have been put down by some of you here. Self-awareness, as we rightly said, a lot of our effort starts with who I am, where I am, what I want to be. And how does that gradually move into, once I have that awareness, I need to action on that awareness, right? I'm feeling angry. Okay, what next? I'm feeling sad. What next? I'm feeling happy. Managing happiness is also important. So how do you learn to manage your emotions? How do you learn to regulate your emotions becomes the second component. Now, moving into the third piece of the construct that we are part of, right? The different spaces that we are part of. How do I move into social awareness? What are some decisions that I take today? How is that likely to impact those around me and eventually the society? Which also ties in with the other competency of making decisions responsibly. And how does that impact my relationships? What are some of kind of, most often we end up thinking that we're defined by those people around us, right? But it's also important that to realize that we attract the kind of energy that we emanate. So what kind of energy am I giving out, and what kind of people do I want to be, do I want to include in my lives, and why is building that diversity important? To be able to touch into the energies that every realm offers, right? It can be the intellectual realm, so part of being a book readers club, or be the physical realm, part of being a runners club. So why is it important to build that diversity in your relationship, and how does that awareness gradually build into long term or sustainable relationships that each one of us can create for ourselves? So yeah, we can move on to the next slide. Thank you so much, Mark. So why SEL in the context of children, in the context of education, largely from what education was holistic many years ago, we've kind of moved towards merit oriented learning. A lot of what we do today is anchored in how many what grade that I hold, how much marks am I getting, have I cleared this exam or that exam, and kind of created a very competitive environment for our children. Although there is still some component of or emphasis on physical learning, a lot of it has gradually moved towards the intellectual realm. This is resulting in huge mental health concerns, and particularly during a time of crisis like the COVID-19 pandemic. So how do we consciously integrate SCL into our curriculum? So the approach that we have adopted is not just look at it as something that I do for 40 minutes in a week, right? It is going to be beyond that. It is going to, like I said, it is going to become an unconscious habit for us as adults as well as our children. So further, what we are really happy about is the government of India also acknowledging the need for SCL and integrating it into the curriculum, right? That is the aspiration through the new education policy that was recently announced, that we are really happy that SCL is getting the due recognition, and we are working towards building it into our curriculum. So one such effort is what the Hello program also focuses on. How can that this become a habit in the classroom, in the school, and how can we create a conducive environment for each one of us to thrive in? And we're not talking just about the child, right? So as direct stakeholders, I mean, or people who influence children directly and indirectly, we're talking about the teachers or the school leaders like the headmasters and the parents, most importantly, because 8 hours of school, if it's going to be a really happy space and I come back to something, a toxic environment at home, the child is only going to be left confused. So how do I create that balance? So we're looking at stakeholders, including the child, as one big unit, and what are some interventions that we can take to each one of these stakeholders. We provide grade specific content, right? It is important to, although the broader parameters that we focus on are all tied in with the 5 SEL competencies that we looked at, but the content is age appropriate. What is being delivered right now as one period every week in both online and offline settings. But as I mentioned, we see the educator as a critical stakeholder here. So we do engage with them in multiple touch points. There are a number of workshops that we have designed through the year. These are very short workshops that we invite the teachers to be a part of. And it's a space for them to reflect as an individual. Most often, what we forget about the teacher is also that while the child is being forced to read a lot of topics, a lot of content, the teacher is also constantly being pressurized to complete the curriculum. Okay, are we done with this? So most of the time, it just becomes a day in, day out mundane activity. But how do I create a space in which I humanize the teacher? I create the space for the teacher to say, yeah, this is who I am, and I'm great at doing this, right? So most often in this rat race, what happens is that from our experience, we've observed that teachers kind of stop appreciating themselves, stop seeing the value that they're bringing to the classroom. So there's a lot of hope that is built in the educator development workshops that we do. And through the year, we also create multiple touch points such as sharing circles to be in touch with our emotions and to create a constant check with the teacher in what they're doing in the classrooms and how Are their emotions playing out in the classroom with the child? So our approach has been whole school approach, because we don't see it as one touch point. Working with only with the child is going to help us achieve our outcome. We believe that school is an ecosystem, is one big unit of change. So we work with children at schools, communities, urban slum communities here in Chennai, and shelter homes across the country. Our target group primarily will work with teachers, tutors who work in the communities that we have set up, and the volunteers who teach at the shelter homes. At this point in time, we are catering to children from grades 3, 4, 5, largely the primary group. But a lot of what we have developed, like I said, because it's built on the five broad competencies, can be applied to higher grades as well. COVID has taught us to go online, use online spaces with whatever tools that we have, whatever is available, be it Telegram, WhatsApp, using Canva or any kind of tool to make it more interesting. And of course, Zoom as a platform where our teachers have been actively, we have been working with our teachers, and teachers have been working with their respective children. Like I said, it's a one period focus right now. Is content is being developed to be delivered as a one period in a week. But what sets the program apart is that a lot of strategies have been built in that are subject agnostic, right? Even if I teach science or even if I teach math, when I walk into a class, I can enable my children to take 5 minutes out of their time to settle down. And in the process, as a teacher, as an educator, I am also going to settle down, just kind of ground ourselves before we move into whatever we want to study. And then when I move out, there is also a checkout strategy. So how can we make SEL subject agnostic? How can, again, I'm emphasizing that how can it become an unconscious habit that each one of us practice? So what are some additional components that we create in the classroom? We have clubs that are big, because we believe in sustainability. It is not something that, okay, we are here for 2 years, 3 years, and this is what you're going to do. No, the program will operate even when Bhumi has graduated from the school, because by that time it has become, it has kind of embedded in their DNA that this is how I start off my class, right? So we have set up hello clubs. We've identified early adopters from our young bunch of teachers who have been practicing SEL unconsciously. So these are people who drive more initiatives, engage the other teachers, and get them on board. Get them kind of build their buy-in into the SEL program itself. We also create corners, classroom corners, where we have a lot of activities that the children can engage in, right? So there are a lot of visual materials and content that the children can kind of work on, build on, and in the process be in touch with themselves, how they're feeling, and how those emotions can play out in their relationships with their peers. It could be in the case of bullying, or just having a lovely conversation with the person who's sitting next to them. We've also been providing teacher and children kits, and in terms of lesson plans or check and check out booklets. These are resource materials that that the teachers can build off of. So it's not that, it doesn't make them restrictive. It is only a broad guideline that they can build off of, and how can they go on by adding more activities to the repository in order to be able to make it more sustainable. What are some of the outcomes? There are a number of outcomes that we have seen over time in our educators and children, but I would like to bring your focus to one particular, which is the first one, right? Increased classroom participation and improve teacher student relationship. Most often the child sees the teacher as an authoritative figure, but through SCL we've been able to break that barrier, to humanize the teacher in the eye of the child and say that, oh yeah, she's a great friend that I can confide in. So we've been experiencing that the relationship between the teacher and the child is definitely improved. And there is also a sense of excitement when the child walks into the classroom. Okay, what is Miss going to do today? What activity am I going to be engaging with? And the same kind of enthusiasm automatically has been seeping into the teacher in terms of what she can do differently when she steps into a classroom, particularly when all of us have been doing this online, away from that physical space, when children not being able to meet their peers in a very hard setup. Moving on, uh, what have what has Bhumi been doing in the last 1 year is what we're going to have a look at. We've been working in over 64 classrooms in 23 communities, benefiting over 1,500 children and over 470 children in communities. Yeah, and we've done over 60 teacher development workshops in a span of between September and July last year, and all of this has been online. So, what have our outcomes been like? Yes, it is definitely a space for teachers to engage, for them to pause and reflect, and in being able to appreciate themselves, in being able to call out their strengths, in being able to make connections with the classrooms and say that yes, every child in my classroom is unique. I have a diverse pool of children, and I need to value every child for that their diversity. We also see that they're beginning to be more empathetic towards each other, from having conflicts in the staff room to kind of humanizing each other and saying that okay, all of us have similar journeys. And the educator development workshops have been opening up spaces for conversations, for us to deep dive into our past and say okay, this is what I have gone through, which is very similar to what you have gone through, and because of which they are coming together as one group in and anchoring themselves in the well-being of the child. So those are some outcomes that we have experienced in the last 1 year. Assessment is an important component because we really want to know where we are going, where we are progressing. So we have built in assessments for both the teachers as well as child. There are different competencies that we focus on. Can we have the student competencies as well, Mal? So one important component that we are building in the teacher is facilitation, not to be an just another teacher, right? How can I facilitate discussions, inviting different opinions in the classroom, different perspectives stemming from their personal experiences, even if they're a child, right? They could be exposed to very different things. So how can I build facilitation as a skill in the teacher, and in the process create a positive conducive learning environment for the child, where there is no bullying, where there is no toxicity, where there is absolute positive co-creation, where there is collaboration to learn, and there is peer learning in the children. Simple thing, to be able to resolve conflicts on our own. Am I going to be taking it to the teacher every day, or am I going to be engaged in physical violence in the classroom, or am I going to just pause and say, hey, I had a bad day this morning, so I know why I am reacting this way, can you hear me out? It might seem impossible, but we have seen children be able to resolve their own conflicts without adult supervision, and that is exactly what is an aspiration that we are building for our children, and that is the path that we have paved out for every child that we work with. Moving on, man. Yeah, so now we're going to pause for any questions. I see that there are some questions here on chat. We will be taking one after the other, but in the meantime, if there are more questions coming up, please do put it down. What are some program or interventions for teachers to enable an empathetically sensitive class environment through their behavior management techniques or language of conversations with students outside of the specific time-bound SEL classes, right? So one of the things that we have taken up is through Hello Clubs or Hello Corners is one initiative done outside of SEL classrooms. So how, because we believe that SEL is not 1 hour approach. It needs to be a whole school approach. So we, in terms of empowering the child to be able to create or use the materials that are accessible to them. There are a lot of worksheets that are provided to the children in being able to connect with themselves and with the other and with society at a large, right? For example, practicing gratitude or practicing kindness is one thing that we constantly emphasize. But with the teacher, our touch point with them, like I said, would be the educator development workshops that we do. There are 4 workshops that focus only on themselves, and then there is a component that focuses on facilitation, and then the latter part of the workshops, the series of workshops, focus in how can whatever we have been practicing until now be taken to the classroom, and that's where the lesson plans that we have created come in. So we encourage the teachers to try out some of these lesson plans and come back to the larger space with some of the challenges that they had, with some of the best practices that they have been experiencing. The other touch point that we have is sharing circles, which is largely, it is very emergent, right, in terms of what the teacher is experiencing right now in the classroom, and it not necessarily it is not restricted to academics, right? So the child, for example, not being coming to classroom without breakfast can still affect those in the classroom and the child himself. So how can the teacher be more empathetic to the situation and give the child some time out, saying that yes, I understand that this has happened, right? So those are some very specific touch points that we have created with the teacher, and being able to build that conversation with them. And most often we encourage solutions or approaches to come from within the teacher community itself, and not mandate certain things that they can do, because we believe that they have the solutions. We believe that they are educated enough and empowered enough to be able to build those solutions for themselves. um, Yeah. There is one question on Hello program conducted at government schools. What was a mode of learning during the pandemic? Government schools we're starting off this year, and the mode of learning the whole of last year was online. Uh, we did definitely work with children who had access. Wherever we were able to provide tablet devices, we provided 198 tablet devices, and through which we've been able to work with children. So the access definitely has played a great part. But additionally, what we did also did was to enable them through worksheets, right? So every month, the parent or the child or some adult comes in to collect rations from government schools, from government aided schools. So these worksheets were made accessible for the children, that they can engage with during that entire month. And once they come back again, we replenish, we put in a new set of worksheets that the children can engage with in the next set of months. So this year, yes, we are going to be working with 10 government schools here in Chennai. But until now, it's been low income private or government aided schools, and it has been largely online. How can SEL be designed for at-risk children or rehabilitative programs for vulnerable children? What would the key component be, right? A lot of what we do have been designed for at-risk children. There is definitely a deeper context that needs to be built, but some of these, whatever we are doing, can be taken to your children. So Deepa, you can probably put down your contact details, and we would be more than happy to share some of the materials that we have developed that you can probably take to your children. We can start off with be just simple worksheets, and if you have educators in your program, we can also look at training them and how the content can be taken to through 40-minute sessions with the children. Are the workshops conducted in the local language or English? We do both, depending on the target audience. We've done it in English as well as Tamil, because right now we are working with a lot of schools in Tamil Nadu. So it has been both English and Tamil, and we can design the spaces in both the languages. Mal, can you read out another question? I'm not able to scroll.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So another question was, how does one integrate SEL in low-income and rural schools wherein academics itself is a large part? You can see it on the screen.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this is exactly what we are doing. We work with low income schools. Rural or urban doesn't matter, because we believe that SEL has to go to every nook and corner of the country. So this is something that again we can take offline. We will share our contact details, and we'll be more than happy to take this as part. One simple way is to start off with your check-in, check-out strategies. How am I feeling is one very simple thing that we can do. Do stay on the call, because Malvika is going to do another activity for us, which is going to give you a sense of what we do with our educators and what our educators do with our children as well. Malvika, is there any other question that we can?
No, I don't think so. There is
Okay, great. So I'll hand it over to you in the interest of time.
Sure. Thank you so much. If there are more questions, do put it on chat. We would love to address it after this component as well. So we're just going to. I mean, you must have seen that we have done about 60 workshops in the past 1 year. My team and I, we have done over 60 workshops for educators. A lot of them were just well-being spaces. We did this because of the context that we're all in. We recognize that. I mean, the pandemic itself has taken a toll on us in various capacities, has been difficult for us in various capacities. We've been dealing with loss, with grief, with a lot of uncertainty, a lot of anxiety. And one thing that we've all been doing during this time, and maybe we haven't just realized it also, is just display incredible amounts of resilience. So that is just something that I would really like to focus on today. And for this thing, so this is just a little snippet of how our workshops with teachers look like. So for this part, it would be great if you could all just grab a book, any book that you just note down your thoughts in, sort of like a journaling activity. We want to keep this as interactive as possible. So I will just pause for a minute so that I understand a lot of you might not have. If you can just grab a book and a pen and come back, that would be great. So I'll just wait for about 30 seconds before I proceed. Okay, I hope that has been sufficient time for you all to get your books. So, I mean, I had mentioned briefly what we're going to be doing, which is resilience. So, if I could just have some responses on chat itself, what do you think resilience means? What is resilience to you? Like I'd mentioned, it's not a new concept. It's not something we're all doing for the first time or hearing for the first time. We've all been doing this. So, what is resilience to you? If I could have some responses on chat. How do you view it? What does it mean to you? Anything. Are there responses? Okay. Oh, coming out of difficulty, Kavya Shri says, definitely, yeah. It is important to acknowledge that there is a difficulty, but it's about the coming out aspect of it. Definitely, Kavya Shri. Any more responses on what resilience could mean? If someone wants to speak also and you want to share on voice, you can let us know. You'll just have to raise your hand, and I think we'll bring you on stage to share about it. So, yeah, if you would like to share over voice, do let us know. Our ability to bounce back after tough situations, exactly. Diana has shared that. Tenacity, yes, definitely. Okay. Any more responses? How you view resilience, what it means to you? Okay, so you can continue adding your responses to the chat and we'll have a look at it. But yeah, you've got it. Basically, like I'd mentioned, you all know what resilience is. It is about bouncing back from a difficult situation. We've all been doing this in the past. And what we're really going to do today is just to like look at a framework. At the Hello team, we are big fans of frameworks and, just concepts so that we love to apply it to our lives in whatever way possible. So we're just going to offer you a little framework that you could think about and customize it for your own life and apply it to your own life. So I will be sharing this with you, and I will be doing this through an example from my own life so that you can draw parallels. And then once I share the framework with you, you are going to journal for some time. So let's just take this time for just reflecting and taking some time out for ourselves. It's a beautiful Saturday morning. I'll share my screen, I'll share the framework, and yeah, let's get started. Let me just. Okay, so yeah, the first part of this is to just identify support systems that you have. Who have you been? So, for you to do this thing, for you to take part in this exercise, I would give you just 30 seconds to think about a problem or a difficult situation that you're facing right now, something that you have been finding challenging right now, or something in the past. Think about one specific thing that that's a bit of a challenge for you right now or in the past. I hope you have thought of something. So, what we're going to do is keep this at the back of our minds and sort of go through this entire framework. So, for my problem, or one challenging time that I want to refer to was I did my master's quite recently, and the master's dissertation component of it was not an easy task for me at all. I wanted to work with an institution, a government institution, a mental health institution, and I had to get permissions. And I started a year back for, I went approached the offices for permissions, and but somehow or the other it kept getting delayed, and it took over a year for me to even like get through the entire process. Only at the end of it, I heard that a big fat no, like you cannot do it. And while my friends all had about 1.5 years to do their entire dissertation, really absorb in the research process, I had to submit something in 3 months, or it meant that I was going to fail. So this was a big deal for me. I was not at all. I had never expected it to go that way. And one thing. So this was a huge challenge, and in 3 months I was going to graduate, and I had to put up something, right? So during this time, I really leaned on a lot of people in my life, my friends, my family, my guide, all of these people. During that specific time, they were even my grandparents. I didn't actually like talk to them about research, but just them being there saying it's okay, you're going to do well. So who are your support systems? If you could just identify that, and keep it, we are going to take some time to put it down. So the first part of it is to identify your support systems. The second part of it is what practices or strategies do you use to help yourself cope with any negative thoughts or feelings that show up? So while we're in a difficult situation, it's important to acknowledge that there are a lot of intrusive thoughts that don't really help us along the way. So what do you do personally that helps with these thoughts? For me personally, back then, I used to listen to a lot of music, and in some ways that was sort of like an escape. And I used to go out for running, and that also like really helped me calm down. So what are some things that you do? And this can be entirely personal. So what do you do to, help along the way? That's the second aspect of this. And the third part of it is, what wisdom or insight or value do you hold on to? It could just be some sort of quote that you've read in a book, a poem, maybe something that your friend said to you. In my case, it was actually something that my friend said to me, and it was really just her asking, "What's the worst that can happen? The worst has already happened, so what can go wrong even further now?" And I actually couldn't think of an answer to that, because for me, in my eyes, the worst had already happened. So I really held on to that while I was working. I'm like, it's anyway all like really bad. So what can be worse than this? And that helped me actually push along. So what is something that you hold on to? It could be a value that you have, that you've always believed in. What wisdom or insight do you hold on to? And for the last part is basically, what can you do immediately? What specific actions can you do immediately that can help you actively deal with the problem? So in my case, it was about I knew I had 3 months, so I had to put down a calendar. I had to say, okay, I will submit this chapter in the next 10 days. I will have to finish this chapter by this particular week and submit it to my guide. So for me, it was just putting that down and actively starting to work, because I felt really overwhelmed. But I think breaking it down into smaller chunks, making a timetable for myself and just work on it was the way I approached it. So what are some specific things that you can do to approach the problem? So this is basically on 4 quadrants. I have put it down for you. Now we will take about 15 minutes to write down on these things. So we're going to be journaling. Journaling is again something that we recommend at the Hello program. It is just, you can write down whatever you want. I'll play some really nice music. Just write down. You can approach this with a problem that you are currently facing or something that you've already faced. So just take your time to write down about these 4 things. You can draw 4 boxes and write down these things. If there are any questions, you can put it on chat right now. Am I clear? We're just going to take this time out to just write on these 4 anchors. Yeah, sagacity is basically the wisdom or the insight that I'd mentioned. So I will just show you what it is again. It's the wisdom or insight or value that you hold on to. It was also for me, it was actually another song also called Puttu Paattu. I don't know if you know it. It's a Malayalam song. It's not, I don't think it's a very popular song. But the song lyrics is really great. If I would recommend it if you would like to go listen to it. Um, yeah,
Mal, sorry to jump in. There's a request to clarify sagacity and show the earlier slide. Solution seeking behavior slide.
sure. Yeah, sagacity. I hope that's clear. Please ask me if that wasn't. This is the solution seeking behavior slide. So basically, just action steps. What can you do immediately? What can you start on right now? Breaking down the problem into smaller chunks. What can you address right now? Is basically what solution seeking behavior is. I hope this is clear. So let us proceed. The time is now 10:56. Yeah, 10:56. We will come back at I'm really bad at math right now. 11:10, I think. Yes. 10:56, 11:10. Let's come back at 11:10. I will play some nice music. I hope that's clear. If we're all ready, we can come back to the session. I hope you had enough time to journal. Okay. That is, yeah, it's 11:10 now, so I will pause you here. I hope that was sufficient time for you all to reflect and journal on these four anchors. Now, I would really just like to invite a few responses from you as to how you felt while doing this exercise. What could you connect with? What was really alive in you right now? You can share this on voice. We would actually really love to hear some of you speak. We've been speaking, and I'm really just tired of my own voice. So, can someone also just maybe raise your hand? And I think Manoj can, our host will unmute you, and you can come on stage and also share. I'll stop sharing the screen. What is one feeling that is alive in you? How do you feel right now? What were you able to connect to? Did this exercise help you in any way? Anything? If you're more comfortable on chat, also please do put down your responses on chat. But if someone would really like to share over voice, I would invite you to come and share over voice as well. There are no correct answers, expected answers, just whatever you're feeling. If you liked the exercise, if you didn't like the exercise, anything, whatever you're feeling right now, what are your thoughts around this? You can just go ahead and put it on chat. Okay, Kavya Shri says she can think for herself and can find solutions for her own problems from her own perspective. That's wonderful. I'm glad this exercise helped then. Thanks for sharing, Kavya Shri. Any feeling that's alive in you, any takeaways for you, any learnings? Was there some kind of shift in perspective? A new lens, perhaps, that you adopted? Or when you were racking your brain thinking about, okay, what sort of value have I held on to? What sort of quote means a lot to me? When I did this exercise and I wanted to think about, oh my God, what did I, sort of hold on to during that time? What kind of activities did I do to distract myself? Whatever it is, I actually had a lot of fun reflecting on that. So what did you discover newly, maybe about yourself, or just, yeah. You could even go ahead and share that sagacity part of it on the chat so that others can also benefit from your sagacity. What sort of wisdom or insight have you held on to? What quote, has changed your life? What song lyric has changed your life? I shared Puttupate. That was my song that I kept listening to on loop during that time. So you can go ahead and share that on chat also. A song that means a lot to you, a poem. Yeah. Ramanjali sharing, this too shall pass. The quote, this too shall pass. Thank you for sharing. Definitely. Very simple but very powerful, I think. Thank you. If someone would like to share on chat also, you can raise your hand and voice, I mean. Nivedita is sharing, I discovered that I lean more towards seeking help from my peers and my close ones while doing this exercise. I reflect better when I speak to people and they're able to reflect along with me. Yes, definitely. Thank you for sharing, Nivedita. Okay, you can continue putting your responses on chat if you would like to share. In the interest of time, I'm just going to sort of move things along. So, another thing in the area of resilience is also this has been proven by research, it's documented. You can also look this up for yourself if you're interested. Another activity that sort of is recommended in the area of resilience studies is actually maintaining a gratitude journal. Now, gratitude is a huge component that does improve resilience over time. There's a lot of research, like I'd mentioned, done on this. So if you want me to share some links on it also, you can leave your details here and we can share that with you. But yeah, a gratitude journal is basically at the end of the day, what you can, what you're grateful for, what is one thing that you've been grateful for during that day. It can be even something as simple as I'm grateful for maybe the trees, if you want to say that, or what is a person that you're grateful for, a small act of kindness that you're grateful for that happened during that day, anything that you would usually overlook and you take for granted, but something that struck you that day, how it's so important in your life, how it's been instrumental for you. So even that, so just feeling that sense of gratitude for something every single day and documenting it, it's a wonderful exercise and it actually has been proven to improve resilience over time. So I would also offer that to you and encourage you to maybe start maintaining a gratitude journal. It needn't be a lot, just one sentence per day. And actually, this is my most favorite part of maintaining something like this is at the end of the year or like every few months I would look through what I've written and it would bring back so many memories. So it could also just be a form of doing that. I would invite you to do that as well. And another practice again, so again this goes back to what are some strategies that we use. One thing that we would also offer you today is mindfulness. This again is a practice that we introduce to teachers and it's a huge part of SEL, actually a big part of self-awareness component of SEL. And today we are going to be exploring it through a small activity, but that activity will be done at the very end, and we usually call that a checkout activity. So we're going to do this mindful nature walk as this checkout. So before that, if you have any sort of questions, any thoughts to share with us, please go ahead and put it on chat. Any questions for us as a part of the Hello program, what SEL is, anything at all? We can end with the mindful activity. So I'll discuss mindfulness then. Is there something else you would like to share on chat? I will wait for about 30 seconds and then I will move on to that. You can also share on voice, over voice. Oh, Anuradha has shared a quote on the chat I didn't notice before. Don't go where the path may lead, go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. Definitely very powerful, I suppose, yes. I'm thinking about it as I'm reading it. Thank you for sharing that, Anuradha. Definitely. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, so you can keep them coming. Vaishnavi will also answer it on chat. I'm thankful to the sun. Oh, wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Aniket. Definitely. I think we do take it for granted, don't we? But I'm from Chennai, so I don't feel grateful for the sun a lot. I usually don't think of it with gratitude, but I suppose it is very important. Thanks for sharing, Aniket. Definitely, the sun. All right. Yeah, okay. So about mindfulness. Mindfulness, what is one thing that is coming to you when I say the word mindfulness? What do you think it means? It can be anything. What do you think it means? What is mindfulness to you? Have you heard this word somewhere? Have you heard it in relation to some other word? What is mindfulness to you? There are no correct or wrong answers, okay? I'm just establishing that. So, whatever you think mindfulness is, go ahead and put it on chat. Jayati shares being present and observing with neutrality. Wonderful. Thank you, Jayati. Being aware. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. There's only a phone number there, I think. But being aware, definitely. Thank you for sharing. Oh, Deepti, thank you so much, Deepti. Being aware. Anything else? What does mindfulness? Does it ring a bell? Does it mean something to you? Being present, Kavya Shri is sharing. Thank you, Kavya Shri. Being in the present moment, Nivedita is sharing. Thank you, Nivedita. Yeah, wonderful. I think you all know what mindfulness is. So there is no really much point in me explaining to you as if it's a new concept. It's basically being aware in the present moment, giving your 100% in that moment. It's not about thinking about what happened already, what's going to happen, but whatever your activity you're doing during that time, what you're feeling, Anuradha is also saying exactly doing an activity consciously. So, whatever you're doing at that particular moment, giving your 100% focus to what is happening in that particular moment. So, that includes how you're feeling on the inside while you're doing it. What are you feeling? What are your thoughts during that particular time? What's also happening around you? I feel like mindfulness is often confused with the aspect of flow when you're super involved in an activity that you forget what's happening around you, right? I don't know if that counts as mindfulness, but also being a little aware of what's happening around you and being present in that moment. When we explain this to children and teachers, we usually use this phrase, physically present, mentally absent, because I've heard that a lot from my teachers growing up. So it's actually that. I think they're talking about mindfulness while they're saying that. It's about being mentally present, not just physically present, but also being mentally present. So yeah, I think we're all very acquainted with it. And in about mindfulness itself, I would just also encourage you to practice it. So one of my team members always says it's a practice. It's just like any other skill, mindfulness. You just need to keep practicing it every day through small activities. So one of our favorite things that we again recommend to our teachers is drink your morning beverage very mindfully. Tea, coffee, milk, whatever you do, try drinking it mindfully, and the experience is just mind blowing. Because when you have that first sip and then it goes down your throat and you feel the warmth spread over your body, and then you know how it tastes in your mouth, everything, that experience is just on another level. So it's something as simple as drinking a beverage, right? But if done mindfully, the experience is unparalleled. So another thing about mindfulness is while you're doing something mindfully, you do tend to enjoy it much more because you're so much more involved in it. The outcome also seems to be better if you do something mindfully. So let's try practicing, whatever activity you feel like. I feel like mindfulness a lot. Okay, so I shared one activity, right? Would you also like to share what activities do you do mindfully, or do you feel mindful while doing? It can be anything, because a lot of you shared being aware, being present, being in that moment, doing an activity consciously. So what activities do you do that makes you feel mindful, or what do you do mindfully? Just any examples. Craftworks, definitely. Kavyashri, thank you. Meditation, thank you, Deepti. Yeah, definitely. Singing, wonderful. Thank you, Nivedita. Anything else? Can be any activity. Watching nature, Parikshit, thank you. Wonderful. Making the bed mindfully, Jayati says. Wonderful. Dancing, drawing. Diana says drawing. Dancing, Kavyashri says. Wonderful examples. Breath watch, Anuradha says. Wonderful. Thank you. You can keep going on adding activities and really reflect, and I think we're also sharing with each other these are things that you can do mindfully. For example, I never thought of making my bed mindfully, but I will try doing that. I do it with a lot of, I try to get it done as quickly as possible. But yeah, the other activities definitely. Yeah, I think it's pretty evident that we can do any activity during the day mindfully, and a lot of times we do it, and I think the experience is also much better if we do it mindfully. It can really help during the day. So yeah, one of the examples here today was meditation. So we're sort of going to do a little bit like that. We're going to do a nature walk. So we're going to actually do. It's going to be a little meditative, and that's going to be the final activity for today. So for this, I would invite you to sit in a quiet place, somewhere where there's not a lot of noise. I would just give you a few seconds in case someone wants to move. Sit in a quiet place in a relaxed position. If you want to sit on the chair, if you want to sit on the floor, whatever position works for you. I'll give you a few seconds to just adjust, and then we will go into that. Okay, I think I will begin then. I hope you're all sitting comfortably in a space that's preferably quiet and you can hear my voice. I'm going to turn off my video because I find that I can be distracting while I'm speaking. So if you're holding a mobile device, you can put it next to you. You don't need to be holding anything. Just relax your body and then we will get started. Yeah. Relax your body. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Loosen up your muscles. If your neck is feeling tight, if your shoulders are feeling stiff, just loosen up your body. Relax your muscles. And again, breathe in and breathe out. Focus on your breath. Focus how you're inhaling the air. It feels warm and it fills your lungs. And your belly sort of comes out like a balloon. And while you exhale, the air feels hot. Just focus on this movement. Now we're going to imagine that we're going to walk through a nature scene. It can be anything of your choice. What would you prefer? What's your favorite setting in nature? It could be the beach. It could be a forest. It could be a meadow. It could be the mountains. Whatever it is, just imagine that you're being transported there. By yourself. You're just walking barefoot across this area. As you're walking, just imagine the wind blowing, the wind on your face, in your hair, and you're just walking. If there are trees nearby, imagine the sound that they would make, the rustling of the trees. And you're walking, and you can hear the birds chirping. And you're walking along, and you see maybe squirrels playing on the trees. And you're just walking along. Focus on how the grass, how the earth feels under your feet. If you're walking on sand, soil, grass, how does that feel under your feet? Really just imagine that sensation. You're grounded as you're walking. And you can smell maybe flowers. What can you smell? It could be the damp earth, flowers, the sea breeze perhaps. What can you smell? Really just focus on that. And you're walking along, and you hear the sound of water, the gentle tinkling of water. And you're just walking along. Now slowly come back. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, and you can open your eyes when you feel ready. All right. I hope that was a good experience for you. If you would like to share how you felt while doing that, you can share. I think the mind is a really powerful tool, and you can really just travel to any place. And I think that's super important during this time while going out is not an option for a lot of us. I would invite you to try this out another time as well when you're feeling a bit stressed. Maybe you can do this at the end of the day to de-stress, unwind. There's a lot of music available online on YouTube. I can share what I've been listening to this person called Takashi Kokubo, but you can listen to them, and you can do this exercise for yourself. Aniket has shared that he feels relaxed and refreshed. I'm very glad. Thank you so much. I'm happy that it helped you. I also noticed you can go ahead and put down your responses on chat if you want to share how you felt while doing this activity. That would be great for us to read. I also saw a question on chat. I'm going to be a teacher in the future, and during my schooling, I don't remember of SEL, but when I'm a teacher, what should be my first move? Any suggestions? Okay, I think, yeah, I didn't have SEL in my school as well, but I think teachers play a really huge role in delivering SEL. Vaish, I'll attempt to answer this. If there is anything else, please do feel free to add on. I think one thing is, Kavyashri, I would recommend taking care of yourself first. That's a huge approach in our program, about your well being, your mental health, because when you're doing fine, you can deliver. Good experiences for the children as well. Taking care of yourself, and I would recommend, I mean, you could maybe also look up some resources on SEL. I can share the link with you. You can reach out to us for resources as well. So keeping yourself informed, reading up on what you can do in the classroom in your capacities, that's one thing. And I think, yeah, bring SEL into the culture and how the classroom is being taught. There's not much we can do with the curriculum because the portions are quite set. That's a challenge, definitely. But in how you interact with the children, in the kind of how you respond to the children, and how you conduct the classes, these are perhaps certain places where you can bring SEL in. I would really invite you to please actually reach out to us. We would love to share some of our resources with you. All the best for. You're going to be a teacher in the future. I think that's brilliant. All the best for that. Vaish, did you want to say something to this?
Just plus one in terms of sharing some links that will help Kavyashri. But one important thing to probably keep in mind is to walk into the classroom with a strong belief that the child is equal to you, right? To create that space which is not authoritative, I think that is also very essential and will be the beginning to SEL. Will build the relationship with you and the child. So that is one of the key principles or guiding principles that you can hold on to. But plus one, yes, we would be very happy to share some resources that will help you get started with integrating some of these SEL practices for yourself as well as the child and the classroom.
Yeah, definitely. I think what Vaish just said was something very simple, but I think makes a lot of difference in the child's life. It changes a lot of things, that kind of perspective, children's agency, and yeah, that would determine your approach also to them. So, yeah, do reach out to us, Kavyashri. Thank you for that question. If there are any other questions, you can go ahead and put it on chat. That was sort of our checkout for today, the mindful nature walk. Again, I would encourage you to try. Jyoti has shared on the chat as well. Have you ever come across that? And if yes, how do you work with that? We So SEL activities can be challenging or triggering for kids sometimes. Have you ever come across that? And if yes, how do you work with that? So in our, I suppose SEL can be when we're talking about. I mean, we do encourage children to share about their experiences, about how some of them could just not be good experiences. They could trigger a lot of emotions in the child. I think it is important to acknowledge that. So what we have done is, we have sort of worked with the teachers to train them on, if this sort of thing happens, then how can we respond. And I think teachers also, as human beings also, and they have a lot of experience on the field, more than we can ever even recommend to them. So we offer them perspectives, but they also usually know how to handle such things. So we recommend that, okay, maybe you could respond in this way. So we do plan for those kind of things. And if our lesson plans, the content that we provide, if it's, we expect, you can also expect that this particular topic could bring up something for children, then we do put down those responses in the lesson plans itself, and we say, in this case, then you could perhaps respond like this. And we also do that during workshops as well. That's just one way that we've done it. It doesn't come out I mean, during the live sessions, we haven't had too many live sessions with the children because of course, the pandemic and lack of access to devices. So they have come up in worksheets. Like when we give out worksheets, children have written down certain things that, they seem a bit like it worries us about, oh, I think the child had a bad experience there. So while we read through the worksheets, we contact that child personally and we speak to that child like, hey, are you okay? Just checking up on them. And I think just being there for them, that's one thing that we've been doing. I hope that answers your question, Jayati. Vaish, do you want to add on to that? Okay, yeah. Thank you. If there are there more questions? Sorry. How to reach out to you, ma'am? Oh, we will put down our contact details here on the chat itself. Vaish, can you help with that? Our email ID and our website also. You can check out the website as well. You can reach out to us on the email ID. We will respond to you. That's pretty much everything for today. We will stay on this link for a while if you would like to maybe interact with us. However, the session is officially has come to an end. Thank you so much for being a part of this, giving us your time on a Saturday morning. We are so happy that you chose to come here. Thank you so very much. Vaish, do you have some words to share?
I was just putting it down on chat. So thank you very much for joining us. We hope that you found this session meaningful, kind of opening it up to SEL and breaking it down into actionables. So if you work with children or if you work with educators, we would be very happy to take these modules to your people. So please feel free to write to us. I'm going to put it down, summarize it again. So we would be very happy to collaborate. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining. We are still available here for the next 5 minutes. I think this room is available. So, yeah. Thank you all again. Have a wonderful weekend. I'm not able to see how many of you are still on the meeting. So, um, thank you all. Have a wonderful weekend. Take care. Stay safe. Thank you, Diana. Thank you. Thank you so much, Aniket. Thank you. Goodbye. Thank you, Diana. Goodbye. Thank you, Kavya Shri. I hope you got our details. We'll look forward to connecting with you soon.
Thank you so much, Malvika and Vaishnavi, for the wonderful session. Thank you, folks, for attending. We have a lot of other interesting sessions lined up for you today as well as tomorrow till 1 p.m. Feel free to browse around the platform and feel free to attend any event that you like. Thanks again for attending the session. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, Nair. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye.